Today I'm looking into tube amps. Because as a beginner myself, I have literally never plugged into a tube amp, and as far as I'm aware, certainly I've never consciously been in the same room as someone playing on a tube amp. I've heard lots about them, but I'm really curious to find out, will I feel a difference? Will I see a difference? What I'm looking for ultimately is simplicity. My amp experience so far is that I've borrowed my nephew's little Marshall solid state, kind of more budget Marshall amp for a little while now, and that's been fantastic. Really enjoy playing in that. I've got a Blackstar ID60 that I picked up secondhand for £100 about a year ago. That's been great. It's quite big, it's quite loud, has all kinds of weird and wonderful settings. And I have had a Spark Positive Grid Spark 2 amp since I bought my first electric guitar a year and a half ago. Now, the other day I managed to sell my Spark amp. So the day I picked up the cash, I thought, this is great. I've been looking forward to this. I'm going to take this and buy a used tube amp. And I had my sights set on a Fender Blues Junior. Read a lot about them, watched a lot of videos, but they're expensive amps. I think in the UK, the cheapest I could see them for sale new is about £650. Used, they were coming in mostly around the £400 mark, but I managed to find a few people selling them for about £325 to £375. And I messaged everyone who was selling one between here in Edinburgh and Glasgow and didn't hear any response. I don't know if it was just that the real cheap adverts weren't genuine, or just people had sold them and forgotten to take the adverts down. All I know is that I came back with the cash in my hand and no amplifier. So I started looking around online and I came across some videos of the Harley Benton Tube 15, which in America is known as the Monoprice 15, and it is very much modelled on the Fender Blues Junior. What I really wanted in that, because the other thing, which isn't technically an amp, which I have had for a while now, is I picked up a used Vailton GP200 kind of multi-effects pedal. And for those who don't know, this is basically one of these little units that you can plug into a speaker or an amplifier, whatever, and it allows you to emulate any guitar sound you can think of. You can choose from hundreds of different things. You can make something distorted, you can make it clean, you can make it have chorus and flange and all these effects. So that's great. It's great fun to play about with. It's great fun to experiment with and try and make it sound like whatever artist you're trying to emulate. What I want and what I need is something simple. Something that I can become familiar with, something I can learn everything about and know exactly what the settings do, so that I know how it responds to an instrument, how it responds to pickups and so on, so that as I'm building guitars or testing guitars or repairing guitars and swapping things out, I can test them on this one reliable platform, knowing exactly what I should be listening for. I want to have this to develop my ear for how things sound. And that's the main reason that I want to switch to a very cheap, simple tube amp. And we'll see from there how it goes. I hope you join me in the journey. Let's unbox this thing and I'll get it set up. I'll experiment with it. Then I'll do another video about breaking in the speaker, softening it up, getting it flexing properly, and how that affects the sound. What I want to look into is miking it up. I've got a Shure SM57 that I've borrowed from my son, who has quite a bit of musical gear. I've also borrowed his Focusrite for getting the sound through from the microphone into the computer interface. And again, I'll talk about all these different things in future videos. But what I'm going to do first is get this thing unboxed, set it up, play a little, record the sound. Then I'll do a separate video about breaking in the speaker, contrast the same sounds but with the broken in speaker, and ask the question, for someone in the beginning stages of guitar, just getting to grips with these things, is there enough of a difference to bother doing that? If not, it's worth doing the video, because at least it gives me some content to share with you guys. So here it is. First impressions of the new Harley Benton, new to me, Harley Benton Tube 15 amp, or I think it's a monoprice in America. It's pretty heavy compared to other amps that I've used. It is, I think, incredibly good looking. Maybe I'm just biased because I own it. Maybe whatever first tube amp I had, I would be saying it looks great. But I love it. I think it looks different from every standard black amp. I think it looks really nice in the sort of off-white. There's a few little details about the finish. Things like the piping around the edges is pretty squint and you know, it looks as if it hasn't been put on with great care to detail. But to be honest, for a £222 amp, I have absolutely no problem with that. That is absolutely fine. It's got these little chicken head knobs, which I quite like. I also love the fact that they're called chicken head knobs, that you basically point which way the beak is going. One thing that a few reviews that I've read previously mention is that because of this shiny metal backplate behind the knobs, it's very hard to read the numbers. I think that's true, but again, I really don't think it matters because the chicken's beak is very clear at where it's pointing. I've just switched it on. One of my first things to mention as a complete new person to tube amps is if you're looking at using your tube amp for the first time, don't panic when you switch it on and no sound comes out. It takes a few seconds for the tubes to warm up in order to amplify the sound. So when you first switch it on, I'm used to instant solid state, and I switched it on and thought, oh no, what's not working here? The light's on. What have I done wrong? And then realized, of course, it takes a while to heat those tubes up. Not long, a few seconds. Now it's on, ready to have a little look at. So I'm just going to try fiddling with a few settings. Let's start by turning all the chicken's beaks up to, let's just turn everything to 0 and go from there. I actually not to 0. And we'll put the gain up to 2 because I don't want to put it right down, otherwise the volume will go. Hopefully try and get a bit of a clean sound. Let's put the volume up to 4. Bass, tone. Now one of the things I'm going to need to look into is that tone knob. I did see one review that said that it's very like the presence knob on a typical amplifier, which means very little to me. All I know is that in one amp that I tried previously, which it was a solid state amp but had a presence knob, all I know is that to my ears it sounded best full up. Let's just see how that works out with this. So we'll start with the presence knob or the tone knob at 0. The reason I found it confusing that there's this tone knob is that the next 3 knobs actually adjust what I think of as a tone. It has bass setting, middle and treble. I've got these all up to kind of the top 0 setting just now. Reverb, let's keep reverb off just now. Again, apologies for the playing, but I'm just going to play a few things to see what it sounds like here, and then we can adjust it. I'm using the guitar that I bought a year and a half ago that really got me interested in guitars. It's my PRS SE. It's basically the cheapest PRS you can buy. It was £400 new here in the UK. I've seen it on sale as low as £375. Probably available much cheaper everywhere else, like most things are. Yeah, that's it on 15 watt version just now. So you can switch between 15 watt for higher output or 1 watt. So this is with no reverb. I'm just going to, it's when you realize you don't have a pick handy. Here we go, I can edit this out later. And I'm back. Believe it or not, I think that's about the first time in the last 6 months that I haven't had my favorite pick in my pocket, and this isn't even it. I can't find it, but it would be the very time that I go to try and make a video about guitar. So let me just play a few simple chords and a few notes and see what this sounds like at these settings. I should just mention that I'm on the neck pickup here on the guitar, and I've got the coil split, but I've just unsplit it. So this is it with in humbucker mode on the neck. Now, let's try a few things. First of all, we can flick it into 1 watt mode. I should have done that before I touched the volume. I'm going to stay in 1 watt mode just now because it's perfect for in here. It's not too loud. This caravan isn't overly well insulated, and I have very lovely neighbours all around me, but I'm sure they don't want to be listening to me blasting the guitar out. And maybe we'll just crank it up for a little bit, just see what it's like. Lovely so far. It sounds great in the room. I don't know how it'll be mic'd up, but it sounds certainly larger than the other amps that I've been using. I guess it's with a bigger speaker. I think the last one I used had a 10-inch speaker, and this has got the 12-inch. So that's it on a fairly clean setting. Let's try whacking up the gain and seeing on a couple of levels of overdrive. So that's the gain at 2 just now. So if we put it up to 4, yep, that's already pretty. Well, I'll just do a quick turn up to full, see what that sounds like out of interest. Just complete filthy dirty, and then I'll back it off a bit and see if we can get a kind of what they call edge of breakup tone, which is basically that when you play softly it sounds clean, and then when you dig in and pluck a bit harder or strum a bit harder, then it has that kind of coarse, like that kind of noise. So let's just see if I was to put the gain right up, and I'll put the volume down a bit because it'll be crazy loud. Okay, so we know it can go at a fair amount of gain. That's it. Gain is up at 6 just now. Quite crunchy if we sort of hit hard in chords. If you play pretty lightly there, it's nice and clean. You can tell pretty much nothing but pentatonic, minor pentatonic scale. But if you dig in hard, let's just try with a little bit of reverb. That's reverb 3. Again, I'm still in 1 watt mode. Reverb 5. reverb full on. And try it just with a bit cleaner with the reverb. Reverb to half. Reverb all the way off. And back up to 5. So it does make quite a difference. It does have a definite sort of spring, snappy sound. I don't know yet. I'm going to find out, and I'm going to fill you in on how the reverb tank works and what all that means. Two of the things this has got is an effects loop, which I'll talk more about at a future stage, but which the amp it's modelled on, the Fender Blues Junior, doesn't have, so that's a great thing. It's a much cheaper amp, but it has an effects loop. But the other thing it has is an input for a foot switch that, as far as I can understand, it's labelled as reverb. It seems that it will turn the reverb on and off. I'll look at that in a little bit too. Initial thoughts about it is, it's great. I love the look of it. I love the sound of it so far. It's got a warm sound. It's got a kind of, it's hard to describe. The best way I can think of describing it is I visited a friend once who lives nearby, and he works a lot on vintage radios. They're radios that have tubes in them, similar to amps like these. I said, what's the difference between having tubes? And he said, well, here's this very old classic radio that I've been working on. And he switched it on, and we just listened for a few seconds, and it was something very simple like the news or weather or something being played. But there was a kind of full warmth in there that is very hard to describe. And it's similar with this. I'm not saying it sounds better than solid state or better than anything, but there is definitely a distinct sense of that full warmth, that kind of glowing warmth that I heard in that radio. So very, very happy with it. Very, very happy with the simplicity of the controls and the simplicity of having this unit that I can now compare different guitars, different pickups with. One thing I've noticed is that on the solid state amp, and certainly playing through the multi-effects like the Velton unit that I use, you don't notice a massive difference when coil splitting, going between, so coil splitting basically means that you've got your your humbucker pickup, which was developed to reduce the natural 60 cycle hum, they call it, the humming noise that is so prevalent in a single coil pickup. So they made it by putting 2 single coil pickups, and the way that they've wired them just reduces the noise. That's a simple way of putting it. And within a lot of modern humbuckers, they give you the option to make it into effectively a single coil again. So you split it by, on this case, you pull out this little knob, and you're now, it's as if you've got a single coil here. Doesn't give you 100% single coil sound, and if you push it back in, it's using both coils. Now, the interesting thing that I've found is that using it on other amps, there is a difference, and I tend to really like it in split coil mode, in single coil mode. But I've noticed in this is a far bigger difference between the sound of single coil split option and using it as a normal humbucker. So just to give you a quick blast of both, and I've only been using the neck pickup just now, but here's in single coil, again just pentatonic notes. Sorry, that's in humbucker mode, so that's not split. Now I'm going to split it and put it into single coils. Hear the difference. don't know how the sound is coming across on the amp as it's coming through the microphone, but to me there's now a really nice distinct difference. I'm really looking forward to getting to know everything about this, every setting on it. I get totally familiar with the sound of it, so that when I plug a new guitar in, or when I plug a new piece of equipment in, or a new pedal, I know what differences are in the guitar or the pickup and what differences are in the amp itself. If you have one of these amps, the Harley Benton Tube 15, or if you have another kind of real budget amp, let me know what you think of it. Also, if you've been able to compare these to a more expensive similar amp like the Fender Blues Junior, I'd be really interested in your feedback. Did you notice much difference? Did you notice a big improvement with the Fender over something budget like the Harley Benton? But just now, enjoy playing. I need to think of some clever catchphrase to have at the end. Some kind of, until I see you next time, play your guitar and get a tiny bit better. But I'll think of something. That'd be a good idea. If you've got any suggestions for a little catchphrase, to all you lousy beginner guitarists out there, keep being lousy, but just be marginally less lousy next month.